Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. It's time. Long awaited video. A lot of requests to give an update on this John boat, and this is the Rona, my first John boat build I ever did. Documented the full thing on the channel, and today I'm gonna go through and do a 2-year review. It's been 2 full seasons. I've actually fished it a little bit more than that, and I feel it's important to give you guys a good perspective of how I feel about it and how it's been working for me, things I would change and whatnot. First of all, I'm gonna say I absolutely love this boat. I mean, there's been nothing more gratifying than fishing off of it after all the work that I did on it. And I mean, I've caught tons of fish on it. It's worked out great for me. So this video is no means like bashing what I did or like regretting anything. There's absolutely no regrets. Absolutely love this build. I mean, look at it, guys. I mean, she's beautiful. But like I said, when I built this boat, this was my first build. I was super conservative. I tried to limit as much risk as I could because I just didn't know enough, you know, and this is my first time out the gate. So I took a pretty conservative approach. I mean, I built this thing out to the T, but I didn't do things like drill through the hull and a couple other things or ideas I had where I was like, I'm just not comfortable doing that yet. So now I have a lot more experience. Since then, I built out another boat and I've done tons of updates to this boat. And that experience has taught me quite a bit and gave me a new perspective on things I could have done and things I would do next time that I didn't do on this boat. So speaking of building out this boat, if you haven't seen the full conversion of this John boat, link at the top of the screen for the playlist. It gives you a complete rundown from start to finish. Such an epic journey. Tons of videos. You could actually build a John boat built off of these videos. Be sure to check that out. Link at the top of the screen. We're going to go from start to finish, from the rear of the boat, work all the way to the front and break this thing down. All right, here we go. We're going to start at the rear of the boat. I have 2 hatches back here, 1 on each side. Inside these rear hatches, I have my main power supply. I have my battery. Don't mind this sign. I got to put this back up. I've got my bilge pump. And on the other side, this is normally where I put my gas tank. Underneath, you can see I've got the e-propulsion battery. These hatches have worked out really cool for me. If I need something on each side, I just open the hatch, get it right out. I can access it right here from the rear of the boat. One thing I think would be nice to do is to have this main switch somewhere in the middle of the boat, and also move this battery to somewhere in the middle of the boat. Because I've done a lot of mods to this boat afterwards, these wires have gotten in the way. I've had to move the main power switch over. I've had to squeeze more wires in, and that's kind of been a pain for me. I would just try to keep this switch in a location that doesn't change. Like, I'm not going to modify or try to redo because I'm doing something else. And I know you can't get ahead of every single thing that you'll do to your boat, but to have it in a central place, maybe build some kind of hatch or shallow box for that would make a big difference. Now, if I had to keep the battery in the rear of the boat, I would actually move it to that side over there. And these are things I might end up doing, guys. And the reason why I would do that is because my conduit for the wiring for the boat is on that side of the boat. So it would eliminate some of the wires that I have here. I still have the wiring for my hatch lights, but for all of the other big 8-gauge cables and stuff that I have back here, it would already be on that side of the boat and just run straight up. So I think that would be a cool way to kind of simplify what I have going on back here. I mean, everything's tucked away nice and neat, but as I think through stuff that I want to do, which I'm going to lead to my next case, I may have to move this. One of the things that I'm considering doing is to create 1 hatch, 1 big hatch instead of 2. And what that'll do is open up the spacing. Because right now I am limited to what can fit through these hatch openings. They're not that big. Luckily, I can fit my gas tank. It's not an issue, but upgrading from a 3-gallon to a 6-gallon might become an issue, or whatever else I might think of doing later with this boat. Having 1 big door will give me the flexibility to put bigger items back here if I need to. What I would do is build a 3-sided lid that opens up this way, so it opens up towards the rear of the boat, and keep about a 4-inch gap going across the entire length of the lid. And another thing it'll give me is increased ventilation for my gas motor. Right now it's vented, but the opening is pretty small. This is about maybe a 10-inch opening, 10 by 6, 10 by 4 opening, and I would open up, give a lot more ventilation for the gas pan, especially if you have a gas pan and a battery in the same location. You want to make sure that your deck is vented. Lastly, for back here, my bilge pump, the hose for the bilge comes up the transom and over and out. That hasn't really been a problem for me until I installed this jack plate and it got in the way. And as you can see, I just have it stuck in here like that, and it works. It's not moving, but you know, we want things to be perfect, guys. Next time I would run my bilge pump out of the side of the boat, okay? I didn't want to do that building out for the first time. It scared me just thinking about drilling through the hull of the boat, so I opted not to go that route and ran the pump up and over. I would run it right through the side of the boat. All right, guys, let's get in the boat now and talk about the rod locker. Here I have an 8 rod locker. Got 8 tubes up there. I've got it carpeted as well as vinyl wrapped for the flooring. These rods stay completely suspended. I put the butts of the rods right back here. And I absolutely love this rod locker. It allows me to store my rods without having to take them on and off the boat, put them in and out of my car. When I'm ready to go, everything is already in place. But for this boat, if I had to do it over again, I would make this rod locker about 2 to 3 inches wider to give me a little bit more space for the reels. When building out a rod locker, it's one thing to make sure you have enough space for your rods, but more importantly, your reels come into play. I didn't really know any better when I built the boat. I spaced this out just far enough, eyeballing it, but the reels are very tight back here. To fit 8 rods in here comfortably, I have to do them a certain way. And I've worked out my own system for that. Bait caster here, a spinning rod there, and so on. It works. But if I was to redo it, I would bring the rod locker out about 2 or 3 inches, giving me more space for my reels. When I built this boat out, I wanted to make sure that I kept as much open space right here. And trust me, guys, if one thing I love about this boat is the space that I have here. I love the ability to keep my stuff protected. I mean, I throw stuff in here all the time. It just works out really well. I don't think I'll ever have a boat that doesn't have a small area like this where I can just chill and do whatever I need to, whether it's changing baits, running the boat around, throwing stuff in here for the trip and whatnot. So my goal was not to build too big of a rod locker to eat up some of this space, but I feel like I could have went a couple inches out, 2 or 3, and just give me a little bit more space without sacrificing space here. So that's something I would do for the rod locker if I was to redo it for this boat. So earlier I just mentioned about wiring. I do have my wires running along the side of the boat, similar to how I have it on this side, guys. This gray tube right here, I have one behind the rod locker. This tube is only a ½ inch wide. So on this side, I have a dedicated conduit just for my onboard charger. And this side, for the most part, I have the 8-gauge wire running from my battery to my fuse box. Ideally, I want to have a bigger conduit to run wires from the rear of the boat to the front. By having a wider rod locker, I'd probably use like this top corner of the rod locker in here on the inside to run something at least 2 inches wide. That way I can easily run the wires for the build, as well as any additional wires I run for upgrades or whatever. I have more than enough space to run those wires through with ease. With the ½ inch ones, they're already filled up. So I'd have to run a wire loose and kind of just improvise to get that going. It won't be as easy. You want to build out your wire conduit so that any updates you make later, any changes you want to make, and as you're actually building the initial build out, you want to be able to easily fish that wire straight through, front to back to front, and done. So I would utilize the extra space to just take a little corner either at the top or down at the bottom, somewhere along this wall, bring this wall out, and have my conduit running up there, or maybe even put it on that side. So I would do anywhere from an 1.5 inch to a 2-inch conduit just for ease. No issues here, everything still works. Guys, all my electrical still works. Now, for those of you who have a John boat already, you do have to maintain it. There's things that are going to get loose, you gotta retighten it, or things that you just have to replace and whatnot. But when I say this boat runs just like day one, it absolutely runs just like day one. No issues there. Let's get on to the live well, or what used to be a live well. I'm sorry guys, it's a little bit junky right now. I've got all my bait bags in here. But in here is where I have my hub. And sorry, there's no light as well. Hopefully you can see. I've got my fuse box down there, and I've got the back of the control switch right here as well. So I decided when I built out this boat that I did not need a live well. And the reason being is I wasn't fishing any tournaments at all. I still don't fish a lot of tournaments. So I said, all right, I'm gonna get better use out of this being bait storage, and that's what I went with. So what I did was I installed my switch panel here and cut this out to get that switch panel installed. So this rendered this completely useless as a live well. Now, if I was to do this over, just like I mentioned with the main switch at the back of the boat, I would put that with this and whatever else I need to in its own compartment. I would not have drilled this out just in case I do want to use it as a live well or just to hold fish and take some really cool pictures later. This would serve that purpose. I don't have any regrets because again, I don't tournament fish that often at all, and I built a temporary live well, so I'm covered there. And by far, bait storage is the #1 thing for me. So I would have either kept this as a gravity fed live well, which means there's a plug at the bottom of the boat. You just pull the plug out and water naturally comes in and fills the live well, or I would put in a Flow-Rite live well system, but still use it as baits when I'm not tournament fishing. The front hatches are very roomy. I have a lot of space in here. I've got the 2 batteries and I've got my baits, day box, and a couple other things back here, random things, but mostly baits. And I absolutely love it. I mean, this is central to the boat, right in the middle of the boat, easy to get to. I sit exactly where I'm sitting right now and do what I have to do. So this is my main bait storage, and I'm in and out of here all the time. Hatch opens up really easy. Got your strut, no issues, no complaints. It's reinforced. The hatches aren't sinking or anything. Everything is extremely strong. I've reinforced it here. This is 1/8 angle aluminum, I think by 1 inch. And screwed it right through and hid it behind the carpet, so you don't even know it's there. But absolutely no sinking, nothing, no issues. All the hinges, piano hinges, work just fine. Something that I would change, it's not necessarily for the hatches, but I'm gonna bring it up here because it's the subfloor of the hatch. Got my subfloor down there, and I went heavy. I went with 0.090 aluminum, which is pretty thick. It's heavy. I mean, this thing is rock solid. I've got the foam boards underneath, but I would go lighter. I would probably go with 0.040 and eliminate at least half the weight that I've added to the boat going with 090. 090 is very thick and sturdy, but it's not necessary. That's not load bearing. The only weight it bears is what I put in these hatches, so I would definitely go lighter on the subfloor. In addition, guys, I might as well talk about this too. I framed out the bulk of this boat using 1/8 inch aluminum. And for a 14-footer, I would go with 1/16 as much as I could and cut that weight in half as well. Of course, add extra support wherever you need to, just to reinforce any spots that might bow a little bit, but I would go lighter and see how that works out. I have not built a 14-footer out with 1/16 angle yet. I do plan to, so I can test that theory, but I would definitely look to do that to reduce some of the weight from using 1/8 angle. Now, the upside is 1/8 is worry-free. I mean, it is strong. You should not have any problems whatsoever, especially if you're using a wood deck. It will hold up anything you put on it. But again, that comes with a price, and that's weight. If I was to do this boat again, I would probably build a day box out somewhere in the front of the boat. I don't think I would do it up there. I see some people do that, but who changes baits all the way at the front of their boat? I know I don't. I sit back here where I'm comfortable, change out my baits. So I would probably put a day box either on this side or that side of the boat. I also would contemplate putting 2 small hatches on either side of this middle hatch as well. But if I had to choose, I would go with a day box because that's something I know I would use every day. And it's something that I use right now. So while we're here, guys, let's talk about the carpet. Oh, before I do carpet, install a pedestal seat mount. I mean, this thing is very, very sturdy, very strong. I'll show you just really quick. And guys, again, anything you want to see how I did this stuff in the boat, and when I say this stuff, I mean everything, check out the playlist, okay? I'll leave it linked in the description below as well, but just showing you real quick, I put in wood here underneath along with sheet metal and did 6 bolts through to create a very strong base for the pedestal seat. No issues at all right there. All right, so let's talk about carpet. I went with 16-ounce carpet, which is an upgrade. It's a lot thicker than what you would get at Home Depot or Lowe's and all of the like thin bunk carpet, which there's nothing wrong with that stuff. But I wanted to go a step up and go 16. So this carpet is very soft. It's held up very well. If I had to do this again, I would go all out and go 20-ounce carpet. Reality is the carpet will flatten out over time. From you stepping on it, from the sun beating on it, from just everyday use, it will flatten out. This carpet is not as flush as it was from when I first installed it. Who knows, maybe after shampooing it or cleaning it. I haven't done any of that yet. I vacuum it a lot, but maybe after doing a good cleaning of it, it will fluff back up maybe, I don't know. But with that being said, I would probably go full 20-ounce carpet. It can be a little bit harder to deal with when trying to figure out how to gauge the gaps between your hatch lids, but I would go full 20-ounce and try that out next time and see how that works out. Again, this carpet is held up really well. It's still very soft and it's flat out working really well for me. Let's talk about the trolling motor installation I did. I created a wood block under here. Everything is waterproofed and sealed up, and it's been extremely sturdy. This trolling motor has not loosened up. I don't feel any kind of deterioration for the mount, nothing at all. This thing is rock solid. I've got it bolted in from underneath, and as you can see, I mounted it so that the trolling motor comes out close to the center of the boat, and I did that intentionally. I did my research, again, first build out, and research said install it closest to the center of the boat for great tracking, great performance, and I did that. That's also what was recommended by Minn Kota for the best placement for the trolling motor. So what I would consider doing if I had to do this over again is going against the grain. And I've seen other people do it, just didn't want to do it for myself, and install the trolling motor more along the edge of the boat. One of the main reasons why I would even do that, from a functionality standpoint, I love where it is. I would not change it. The only reason I would move that to the left is because when this boat is on the trailer and I need to service this motor, I cannot deploy the motor all the way down. You guys can see if I bring that down, it's going to hit the tongue of the trailer. I've had to semi-deploy it and do stuff to it, and that just makes things a little bit more difficult. So that's really the only reason why I would change this up and move it to the side, is that it'll allow me to deploy it all the way out, and I can do maintenance on the motor a lot easier. Other than that, from a performance standpoint, absolutely nothing wrong. I don't know if it tracks better at the center of the boat versus the side, because I don't have a boat that's set up that way. Leave me a comment below if you have your trolling motor installed on one of the sides of your boat. Tell me how it works for you. Is it tracking well? Is it drifting one side while you're running the motor? Let me know in the comments below. But that's just an extra tidbit wanted to bring up to you guys. The nav lights, I wouldn't change anything at all. I'm not even going to talk about that. Mount is working well. I love that the mount for the graph is right over the trolling motor center. I may end up raising my graph up just so that the screens are closer to my face, but you know, who knows, we'll see. Tray works out really well, no issues there. Foot pedal, no issues there as well. Just more storage, nothing to mention. One thing that's in progress, and if you guys follow the channel, you probably know this already, I got my e-propulsion battery right here. I haven't really settled on how I will have this installed in the boat. I've got it this way set up with these straps sticking out, so it's kind of an eyesore, but those straps are there to help me pull that battery out whenever I'm ready to take the battery out the boat. But I think I'm going to end up extending this deck out and creating a cutout there to be able to drop the battery in from the top and close this up as well. That's something that I may do, may not even happen this year, and I may not even do it at all. I may just leave it like this, who knows. But one of the last things I want to talk about is how I secured the decking down to the boat. So the way I secured the deck, I used these self-tapping screws right here. And I'm not going to go into detail on what type of screws they are and all of that. Again, everything is up on the channel. Check that video out. But I'm going to actually change this out for sure. This is one of the biggest changes I'm going to make that I feel like I have to make. Reason being is this deck almost flew completely off recently as I'm trailering down the highway. And that happened because over time, these screws stripped out the hole in the aluminum underneath the deck. If you don't know, aluminum is very soft metal. These screws held up for 2 full seasons, but with constantly taking the deck off, and I did that a lot. I'm always in this boat doing stuff, and I think I took it off one too many times and re-screw, take it out, and that wore the hole out. I use these screws because they are virtually, you don't see them, and I was really focused on not being able to see the screws. My outlook has changed quite a bit after that happened, and I mean, that could have been a really bad situation. And literally, guys, my deck was bent into an L. This very deck, I did some patchwork so you can hardly tell. You can actually see in that corner there is damage and the carpet's all messed up, but I was able to patch it up and put new screws in and keep this boat on the water. But on the go forward, I'm going to change it up. This is a good option, but I caution you, if you're going to do what I did and you're going to be removing your deck on and off a lot, this is not the best way to go. Or if you use these screws, make sure you check or you reinforce or if you use these screws, which is a really good option, I should have did it in the first place, is, and I can't show you now, but pretend that this is the bench underneath the deck. Rivet in some aluminum sheet metal to the deck of the boat and make it a thick enough piece of sheet metal that when you put this through, it will hold. And I know this because I do have brackets underneath my deck of 1/8 inch thick aluminum, and that wasn't an issue. The actual bench seat underneath the deck is not that thick, and it did strip over time. So the next way I secure this deck will be to use, I think they're called rivet nuts. I will literally bolt down this deck and those holes will never strip out. This deck will never come flying off. Again, stay tuned to the channel for that video. All right guys, that just about does it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully I didn't go too deep or give too many details, but I wanted to be very transparent with you, share my learnings as always. Hopefully people out there can benefit from mistakes that I've made. I always like to show my screw-ups or decisions that I made that weren't the greatest. I really don't have to change anything on this boat except for the rear deck. I'm gonna secure it down, that's a must. But outside of that, I'm golden. This boat performs very well and it's built to last. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel, leave a like and a comment on this video and share it. Help it trend on YouTube. Get this information out to people. Stay tuned to the channel for more John boat builds and John boat updates. I'm always doing stuff to this boat. It's like a never-ending addiction, I guess. I love it and wouldn't want to be doing anything else, and I'm happy to share this with all of you out there. Got a new John boat build coming your way, so make sure you subscribe to the channel and be a part of that journey as well. I mean, all of these build outs are journeys in and of themselves. Hopefully I didn't leave anything out of this video. If I did, I will leave the information in the description below, and for your boat project, check out the links I have in the description below. We also have our discount code in the description to TB Nation for 5% off your next order for anything you need to build your boat out. Anyway guys, I'm gonna get out of here. Stick to the channel, got some more John boat builds coming your way and some really cool fishing trips and collaborations planned out. Got some tournament fishing. I mean, it's gonna be lit for 2022. Subscribe to the channel, be a part of what's going on with Bash Brothers. All right, till we meet again, see you in the next video.